Y'all, the journey I have been on has been incredible today. I had no idea I was going to go on this journey, but I'm here in Savannah, Georgia. I've been wandering around the city. I started with Flannery O'Connor's childhood home. She's this amazing novelist who was a woman, a Catholic, deep mystical roots kind of in her novel writing, and she's incredible. But then after that, I went to the Civil Rights Museum, and they began to tell me about Savannah's role in civil rights and how incredible and completely undocumented the struggle was here. Obviously, it's a southern state. There's lots of slavery stuff going on here. In fact, one of the most unsettling things to me as a Californian is like how many monuments there are to Confederate soldiers. I went to Forsyth Park. There's a giant monument to Confederate soldiers. I went to Montgomery Park, and there's a Jefferson Davis statue. And none of this admits like wrongdoing. None of this admits that they lost, really. It's kind of this ode to people who tried to defend slavery. And it's really unsettling, especially from someone from the West Coast, that people here still live in the shadow of that. So I go to the Civil Rights Museum, and they begin to tell me about the way that the people here resisted. It was so organized and so well led. I went to the First African Baptist Church where they had these mass meetings where they would organize boycotts and plan, and the NAACP would just kind of help people like learn how to resist well with the lunch counter sit-ins and all these things. It was so well organized and so well led that they had integration of parks and schools and churches and libraries a year before the law was in place. Martin Luther King Jr. calls Savannah the most integrated city south of the Mason-Dixon, and he says this in 1864. So Savannah has this really incredible, non-violent, no riots, well-led, well-organized movement to increase integration and to end Jim Crow style era policies. So then I'm learning about General Sherman, right? The famous Union, the North general who sweeps through the South and starts to destroy, right, southern cities. He's got this strong arm thing, right, where he just burns down stuff. They live off the land, and they destroy the rest of it. It was really demoralizing to the Confederate soldiers. And he ends up here in Seattle. In fact, he ends up staying in this house behind me, right? And I'm in Madison Square, which famously, so he realizes 2 years after slavery had been ended by Lincoln with the Emancipation Proclamation, there were still slaves in Savannah. No one had known. And so around Christmas, 1865, he begins telling people that there's this thing called the Emancipation Proclamation, and that there's slaves, no longer slavery in the United States. And so he makes a deal with the head of Savannah or whatever, that he wouldn't burn down the city if they could kind of stay here. He needed a port. This is like the third largest port in the United States right now. So he needed a port. Kind of strikes this deal, ends slavery here, right, by reading the Emancipation Proclamation. And then one of the most kind of hopeful yet disheartening aspects of the Civil War for me is this thing called the Field Order number 15. Let me give you a brief history if you don't know. So Field Order 15, slaves had been following Sherman. He had kind of been liberating slaves all over Georgia, all over the South, really. And so they began following him. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know what to do. And so they end up here in Savannah, and it says on January 12th, right, they read this order, and essentially what it says is that he guaranteed land from Charleston to down to Florida, that every freed slave could have 40 acres and a mule. And so these slaves, ex-slaves, now free people, had been guaranteed a free 40 acres and a mule to really set out on their own, to really kind of make their place in this world as a free person, as a hope and encouragement post-Civil War. The other thing the Special Order, Field Order number 15 does is allows them to enlist in their own struggle here, which is also really incredible. And so what happens with this order is that Lincoln dies, right? Famously killed. And Andrew Johnson revokes the special order. It never comes to fruition, and then begins, right, this sharecropping history and this long Reconstruction history in the South, which essentially tries to re-enslave the people without actually enslaving them. And so that's how we get to the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, where I was just talking to you about the civil rights movement and how the struggle, even into the 60s and 70s, was happening here in Savannah in a well-organized, well-led, non-violent way of demanding justice from the powers that Franklin... Yeah, anyways. So, man, incredible stuff here. This journey that I've been on has been wild. So I've been fasting today, praying through this stuff. It's a lot to take in. Hope you guys are well. See y'all soon. Blessings.